Welcome to the Newsome MMA podcast, partnered with Concussion Pro 1, the world's first dedicated concussion supplement. I'm your host as always, Newsome, with your co-host Jon, and in celebration of UFC returning to London, we have brought along another member of the Newsome MMA team, Kieran. So first of all, Jon, how are you doing tonight, bro?
Hey there, man. I'm very well, thank you. I've got a touch of the man flu, but that won't put my excitement away for this card and breaking it down, man. It's going to be great.
Absolutely, man. And Kieran, making your Newsome MMA podcast debut. How are you, my man?
Yeah, it's an honour to be on, man. Listen to you and Jon do the podcast now for quite a while. It's just an honour to be on here, especially for such an exciting card. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Absolutely, and this card is legitimately the best UFC card we've had in the UK, possibly maybe outside of UFC 204, where we had obviously Bisping defending his title in the rematch with Dan Henderson, and that was a pay-per-view as well. But man, we've got an amazing card on Saturday evening. I can't wait to break it down. Before we do though, just before we start, I'd like to remind you all that the Premium Bets membership options from Newsome MMA are available and on the Newsome MMA website. You have the options of a standard, bronze, silver and gold membership, and these memberships provide cheaper prices per fight card for those who commit to slightly longer terms, opposed to purchasing my picks individually per week. You can find all these membership options at newsomemma.co.uk/premium-bets. So let's break down some fights. UFC London from bottom to top, and in the first fight of the night, we've got Grundy, the newcomer, versus Narimani. Kieran, who have you got?
I'm taking Grundy on this one, man. I know we've chatted about him briefly, about his sort of... His Darren Till's probably gotten this fight with Till's influence, but he definitely deserves to be here. He's 8 submission wins. He's on a 9-win streak. Very, very dangerous grappler. He's got Commonwealth wrestling experience. Narimani is not one to sort of pass over. He is quite experienced. Got wins over guys like Paddy Pimblett, but I just think Grundy takes this one where he's grappling.
Awesome, Jon. What about you?
Yeah, man, I'm heading in the same direction as Kieran. I'm really glad that Mike Grundy's finally been signed to the UFC. Like Kieran mentioned, could have been Darren Till's influence, but he does also deserve to be here on merit. His only defeat was back in 2015 to Damien Stasiak, who we know is UFC caliber himself. And yeah, Kieran touched on it. I mean, he's wrestling. He's Commonwealth bronze medalist, I think he was, in freestyle wrestling, and yeah, he's a beast when he gets his hands on you. He changed those takedowns really well. His striking's maybe not the best, but I think it's good enough to be able to set up those takedowns, close the space between the two. Again, as Kieran mentioned, Narimani, you can't just pass over him. He's a decent guy. He's tough. He's got some good wins. He's fought in the UFC a couple of times. But I just think Grundy's going to be able to get his hands on him. I think he's going to be able to take him down. I think he's going to be able to hold him there and cause some damage with the ground and pound. So, yeah, I think Grundy's going to win this. I think it's going to go to a decision. But I think he's going to dominate those wrestling exchanges, do enough to close the distance to get his hands on him and take him to the mat and subsequently get the win. So, Mike Grundy to win by decision.
Yeah, and I agree with both you, man. And straight off the bat, first fight of the night. This is my free bet of the night. I've got 1.5 units on Mike Grundy at +225.
That's money, man.
Man, it's a ridiculous line. I'm excited to see Mike Grundy in the UFC. His wrestling is unbelievable. Like, if you've not watched any tape on this guy, go and watch it. It's all available on YouTube, and you can find it through the tape index on Newsome MMA's website. But I swear that the entries, the timing, the speed on his takedowns are just... It's been a long time, put it this way, it's been a very long time since I've seen a wrestler that's got this sort of caliber of wrestling, especially inside a cage as well. He's adapted to MMA really well. He's picked up a solid grappling game. He's got quite a lot of submissions on his record. He's just looking like he's putting it all together. His deficiency is definitely his striking. He's not... he's not the sharpest striker inside the cage, but there is room for that to grow. The bottom line is, though, he's one of those type of wrestlers that he doesn't need to strike to try and outpoint opponents. He needs to strike to close the distance, strike to get his entries, and strike to try and get the fight to the mat, which I think is what he's going to do in this fight. Now, it's also not one of those fights where, I'll give you a good example, Aljamain Sterling versus Brett Johns. It's not one of those fights where we're sort of being a little bit deceived by the European wrestler coming against the American wrestler, where there is levels in that respect. This is an English wrestler, a lifetime wrestler, Grundy's wrestled since he was a child, coming into MMA, to transferring over to MMA against, you could argue Narimani's a wrestler, but a wrestler, and again, another English wrestler that's picked up wrestling during his MMA career, and that's the difference in this fight. There's going to be levels to it now. The way Narimani wins is if he stuffs everything that Grundy shoots at him and starts picking him apart on the feet, but I haven't seen any evidence of Grundy allowing that sort of thing to happen inside a cage. I think that Grundy's going to come out off the bat and shoot in at Narimani. He may take a couple of takedown attempts to get him down if Narimani's takedown defense is on point, but Nad carries a lot of muscle, and the longer that Grundy's making him work, especially in that first round, those muscles are going to fill up with blood. He's going to get tired, and eventually Grundy is going to take over the fight unless Narimani can, like I say, can keep it vertical and potentially knock him out. I think Narimani is going to tire out at some point in this fight, and I think potentially in the third round, late second, maybe third round, we could see Grundy grab a submission. So I'm taking Mike Grundy to win. I'm taking him to win by submission. Now in the next fight of the night, we've got Molly McCann versus Priscila Cachoeira. Kieran, who have you got?
I'm going with McCann for this one, man. She didn't have the great UFC debut. She lost to Gillian Robertson in front of a hometown crowd. She had an issue with making weight as well. We found out later that, she'd been offered that fight quite late in the day. She didn't think she was going to get it until I think it's 5 or 6 weeks out that she actually took the fight. But for this one, she's better prepared. She seems to be working on a lot of stuff with the guys at Next Gen in Liverpool. She's working alongside, Chris Fishgold, Paddy Pimblett, all the guys there. And next to my notes for Priscila Cachoeira, I've just got was assaulted by Shevchenko, because that's what happened in the last fight. She just got, if you do that on the street to someone, what Shevchenko did to her, you'd get done for GBH. It was mauling. It was vicious. I just don't see her bouncing back from it. Jon,
what about you?
I'm making the 2 out of 2 with Kieran. I'm going with Molly McCann in this one. As Kieran mentioned, she lost the UFC debut to Robertson, where Robertson really exposed McCann's weakness, and that was on the ground. She obviously lost by a rear naked choke in the second round. Since then, all over Facebook, Twitter, everything like that, she's been drilling that jiu-jitsu, working those scrambles, working her wrestling to make sure she doesn't even get taken down in the first place. And yeah, I think that's all that hard work is going to pay off here. I think on the feet, I think McCann is. I don't want to say a better striker in terms of technically, because I'd like to cast her of a technical brawler, but yeah, I think McCann will be able to do damage on the feet, and as Kieran mentioned again, we didn't see much of Cachoeira in a debut against Valentina Shevchenko. Man, she just got lit up from start to finish. I saw some of her. I was watching some of her fight against Rosie Duarte in the fight before that, and man, she didn't look particularly good in that fight either. They both looked tired after a couple of minutes, and yeah, I just haven't seen a lot from her that makes me think she'll be able to cause Molly McCann any danger. And like I say, I think McCann's tough, especially if the fight stays standing. McCann's tough. Like I say, she's a brawler. She'll be in your face. She'll clinch up with you. She'll dirty box on the inside, then rough you up on the feet when you separate. And yeah, I just can't see a way that McCann's going to lose this. And I think McCann may get a finish as well. I think it may play out similar to the Shevchenko fight for Cachoeira. I think she'll take some damage, and then maybe second, third round she'll eventually succumb to McCann's strikes, and McCann will get a first win in the UFC. So I'm going Molly McCann to win this fight via a stoppage.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's a good fight for Molly McCann. I also don't think that the UFC are going to give her a second fight in England as well, to set her up for a loss in this fight. The Gillian Robertson fight was a tough debut for her, and would be for anybody else as well, especially when Gillian Robertson's grappling is and wrestling is at the level that it is compared to where Molly McCann is. It was just a tough fight for her, and Gillian Robertson's going to get a lot of good wins going forward in the UFC. We didn't really see anything in regards to what Molly McCann has showed us in her previous fights, but I do think we're going to see more of a game. You sort of mentioned it perfectly, John, in regards to technical brawler, because I think that's where I would describe a style as well. It's tough, but like I say, on the same token, it's tough to get a real gauge on Cachoeira, because you look at her debut in the UFC, and like we've already mentioned, she got absolutely mauled by Shevchenko. So can she bounce back from that? Do we see some more of Cachoeira's game? I do think we are going to see more of it. I just think Molly McCann's going to be a little bit too imposing inside the cage. I think she's going to be aggressive. I think she's going to come forward, unless Cachoeira's got a really good wrestling game that we're still yet to maybe see, and she uses that. I can't see past Molly McCann in this fight. I think she's going to land the harder shots. I think she's going to land more volume, and I ultimately think whether Cachoeira gets stopped or not totally depends on her cardio. I do think that she's tough. I mean, she took a hell of a beating against Shevchenko, So she showed toughness to stay in that fight for as long as she did. I'm gonna give Cachoeira the benefit of the doubt here. I think she's tough. I think her cardio might hold up. We could see a tire, but if Molly McCann puts it on her early and doesn't put her out early, then again we could see Molly McCann's cardio drain a little bit, and therefore the shots won't be as hard. Cachoeira would have hit the hardest shots, and at that point you normally sail on to a decision. So I'm going to take Molly McCann to win, and I'm going to take her to win via decision. Now in the next fight of the night, we've got Danny Henry returning against Dan Ige. Kieran, who have you got?
This is one of the tougher ones I've got to predict here. I think I'm going to go Dan Henry. Just looking at his record, he's got 10 finishes on there. He's on a 5-win streak. He's got some momentum behind him. I just think there's something there where maybe if he gets the fight to the floor, he can really work and get some damage done and add another finish to that record. But it's a tough one. Dan Ige's never been finished before, so I don't know whether that's because his chin's never been properly tested or whether it's just because he's got a hell of a chin that can't be broken at the minute. But I'm sure we'll find out in this fight. But I'm going to take Dan Henry, but it's not one I'm particularly confident about.
John, who have you got?
Yeah, again, I'm echoing Kieran's statements with this is a really tough one to call, but I think I'm going to go with Dan Ige in this one, and it wasn't a decision I took lightly, but I just think he's top control. I mean, he landed some nice takedowns against Jordan Griffin in his last fight. We saw his power in the Mike Santiago fight when he finished him with brutal ground and pound in the very early on in the first round. And if he does get the fight to the mat, which he does seem to have the ability to do that, he has got some very nasty ground and pound. Now, as I mentioned, this is by no means a confident pick, because Danny Henry is dangerous himself. He's extremely durable. We saw that in his UFC debut against Daniel Tamor, and then we saw two sides doing the 39 seconds of the Hakeem Dawodu fight. We saw his power with the shot that put him down. Then we saw his submission skills and that finishing instinct, as I'd say, because he locked onto that guillotine choke immediately after putting Dawodu down. So it's going to be a tough fight. I think Dan Ige does. He's a bit reckless with some of his striking. He throws quite wild looping punches, so Danny Henry can quite easily counter that with a straight, similar to the one we saw in the Hakeem Dawodu fight. But I don't think. I think if he doesn't use that counter striking well, and Dan Ige can press him back with his aggressive striking style and take the fight to the mat, I think it could be quite a long night for Danny Henry. I don't think he'll get finished, but because he's a durable guy, like I say, we saw that in the Tamor fight. But I think Ige will spend enough time on top to get a decision, and I think that vicious ground and pound he's got will look good in the judges' eyes. So I think it's going to be a very close fight, but I'm going with Dan Ige to win this one via decision.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more confident in both you guys with this pick. I'm going Dan Ige, man, and I do think he gets the job done. Now, Danny Henry, you can't deny that the dude's been impressive in the UFC. You know, he came in on his debut against Daniel Tamor. He looked great against Tamor. You know, it's almost like he had the game plan to, you know, give up round one, make Tamor gas, and then really take over, which is absolutely smart when you're fighting a guy that's never been out of round one. So, fight IQ seems to be there. And then the Dawodu fight, we saw him knock Dawodu out, who again is tough as nails, and subsequently finish him after that. So we've seen some really impressive stuff from Henry. But the thing is with Dan Ige is he has got a good takedown game. He will press forward. He'll look to get the fight to the mat, and his grappling's really, really good as well. And in regards to his last fight with the Jordan Griffin fight, I was going to bet Jordan Griffin in that fight, and because of it, I ended up doing about 2-3 hours worth of tape on Jordan Griffin. So I got a really good read on exactly where Jordan Griffin is. And the reason I'm talking a little bit about Jordan Griffin right now is because I think that dude is a phenomenal fighter, and again another fighter that's going to win a lot of fights in the UFC. And Dan Ige looked really good against him. You know, he had a few down spells where he lost around marginally and stuff like that, but on the whole, Jordan Griffin is going to be a very tough fighter for his opponents to beat going forward, and Dan Ige managed to do that, and he managed to look good in there as well. Now, in regards to style versus style, I don't think Danny Henry uses his range and his reach to his advantage. So it's a little bit like how I was talking about Stefan Struve a couple of weeks ago. I know he ended up getting the win out of that, but he's much taller than most of the opponents he fights, yet he lets them close the distance. He lets them get into boxing range. And the thing is with Danny Ige, he will be pressing for that for that distance to be closed. And rather than hang out in the pocket with Henry, he'll just be level changing and shooting. So I do see Danny Ige getting a lot of takedowns in this fight, and I actually don't think it's going to take too many to really start styling on Henry, to really wear him out. And you're right, John. He's tough. He's really tough, and I don't think Danny Ige is going to finish him on the feet. I don't, knock him out on the feet. I don't think he's going to TKO, ground and pound him on the mat. Like I've said, he is tough as nails. But the problem is, Ige's submission grappling is also really good, and you can be as tough as you like, but once that arm's under the neck, you either tap or you go to sleep, and I think that's what's going to happen here. So I've got Dan Ige to win, and I'm taking him to win via submission. Now, in the next fight of the night, we've got Tom Breese versus Ian Heinisch. Kieran, who have you got?
I'm going with Tom Breese for this one, man. You know, he's probably one of the best prospects the UK's got right now. Training at Team Renegade in Birmingham. He's training with the Edwards brothers. You know, he's got a great team there behind him that's working alongside him. You know, but it's dangerous everywhere. His striking's phenomenal. I was watching one of his old Bama fights today, where on the feet he just sort of he outclassed his opponent. I think he finished with a knee to the body, followed up with some strikes. But you know, his submission game is extremely dangerous too. We know if he goes to the mat, gets a fight to the mat with his wrestling, you know, he'll get on top and he'll get something locked in. So I think I'm going to take Tom Breese to take this by submission. But, you know, Heinisch is definitely a talented guy. He came through the Dana White Contender Series. You know, I know he spoke to you a couple of weeks ago for an interview, where he said you know, if he seems confident going into this fight, but I don't see him getting it done. So I'm going to go with Tom Breese by submission.
John, who have you got?
Yeah, it'd be wrong for me to pick anyone other than my my Birmingham boy Tom Breese in this one, wouldn't it? And I mean, first and foremost, I'm disappointed at how low down the card this fight is, because this is a great fight
definitely
between two absolute beasts, man. And these two guys, I honestly think are going to be two definite top 10s, even top 5s in the division in the future. So to see it so low down the card is pretty disappointing. I know the fans in London will be there from the start, but obviously for that exposure across the globe, it's a bit disappointing. But yeah, I'm following in Kieran's footsteps again in this one. Got to go with Tom Breese. The guy's an absolute beast, man, and I really don't think we've seen it in the UFC yet because of his injury layoffs and the fact that that he was draining himself as well to get down to welterweight previously, but he has given us glimpses of what he can do. That Louis Dutra Jr. fight, his UFC debut, got the finish. Cathal Pendrid, he demolished in Dublin. Keita Nakamura against a really dangerous grappler, he completely nullified it. He got that sole loss in his record, Sean Strickland at UFC 199, which was a robbery. That's not favouritism either. That was a robbery. And then obviously he came back after a couple of years out and obliterated Dan Kelly. But even in those performances, I don't think people really know about him. Still a bit of an unknown quantity. But I'll tell you this now, because I've had the pleasure of training with Tom quite a bit, and he's a phenomenal boxer. I'd say he's one of the best boxers in the division. Point blank, that's going from champion all the way down. His boxing is absolutely phenomenal. His wrestling and jiu-jitsu are also superb, but we never really see that because he never really needs to use it. He doesn't particularly use offensive wrestling very much, but he's got a good takedown defense, and his jiu-jitsu is legitimate. As you mentioned, Kieran, he trains with some serious guys at Renegade, and they go all over the place and train out. I know they trained out in Iceland with Gunnar Nelson and the team there as well in their jiu-jitsu, and in Tom Coffey as well, a guy who's competing on Polaris on Friday evening as well. He's a legit black belt who trains at Renegade along with the coach Chu Kwong. He's a very good coach as well. And yeah, he's just so well rounded. He manages distance so well that I just can't see a way for Heinisch to win this fight. I mean, if he gets in close, I think Breeze's boxing will cause serious damage, and then on the outside, I think with those front kicks, those teeps that Breeze uses, and those long 1-2s, I just can't see a way for Heinisch to win this fight. And like I say, I am big on Heinisch. I think he's really impressive. He really impressed me in his debut. I think he can go a long way in the UFC. He's got good offensive wrestling. His defensive wrestling didn't look great, but he was up against a good career grappler, so quite hard to judge. But I think this fight's going to play out mainly on the feet, and I think Tom Breese is going to get it done. I'm also going for a finish in the second round. Tom Breese to win via knockout or TKO.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is the second best matched fight on the card, with one fight that we'll speak about a little bit later on. Honestly, I went into tape thinking Ian Heinisch would potentially run through Breeze, and to be honest with you, I think this fight is so much closer than what a lot of people might think. You know, Heinisch has got is a collegiate wrestling champion, I believe. You know, good wrestling, good striking. He's aggressive. He'll keep coming forward. He's got good cardio as well. He did tire a little bit against Mutanch, but you know that fight was short notice. He's going to cause Tom Breeze problems for sure in this fight, but Tom Breeze is going to cause Heinisch problems as well. You know, he's going to be the taller fighter, longer fighter. As you've said, John, he's got good boxing. He's got good jiu-jitsu. Now, one thing I want to mention, because I've had a couple of conversations with people surrounding the grappling and the jiu-jitsu of Breeze, because they keep mentioning the Keitaro fight and how, you know, Keitaro looked great grappling against him. First and foremost, Keitaro is a phenomenal grappler in MMA. You know, he's got so many submission victories on his record. But I think the reason why, and this is just me speculating, but the reason why Tom Breeze looked a little flat in regards to his grappling in that fight is because, and you've alluded to it already, John, that the weight cut down to welterweight I just think was too much for Tom. He's a very, very big dude, and we've seen it in other fighters. You know, Anthony Rocco Martin was getting ragdolled by OAM, Aubin Mercier. Anthony Martin's moved up and he was holding his own in regards to strength against big welterweights upper division, so LaFleur and Sergio Moraes. You know, it happens once a fighter stops the brutal weight cuts, they become stronger. So they may not be stronger down a weight, but they can be stronger up a weight. I interviewed Mick Stanton not so long ago, and he was saying the same things, that you can start lifting more weights when your cut's not as brutal, so you can therefore get stronger. So that sort of stuff happens. I think Tom Breese is very, very well rounded, and at this level in the UFC, well rounded fighters go quite far because they're able to stand up if they get taken down, or they're able to hold their own on the mat. They're able to fight moving backwards and going forwards as well, which is key. Now, for Ian Heinisch, I really, really want to see him use more of his offensive wrestling. I was really surprised. Well, in a way, I was surprised, but on the flip side, are you really surprised he wasn't offensively wrestling against Cesar Mutanch, that's a legit grappler? But a top wrestler, top wrestlers can nullify the jiu-jitsu of a good Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy on the mat. Now, I was just surprised that I didn't see a little bit more offensive wrestling from Heinisch. He could have got on top and he could have landed some damage. He's got a good ground and pound, but he was the one getting taken down as well. Now, I don't think Breeze is going to be offensively looking to wrestle. I think he's going to want to keep it on the feet, but if he does get taken down, I don't really worry too much about his ground game, because I know it's good, and like you say, John, we haven't really seen too much of it yet in the UFC. It's a great fight, but I am going with Tom Breese in this fight. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to go to a decision. I think both guys are going to have the moments, but I just think Tom Breese does enough over 3 rounds to take the win. So I'm going to take Tom Breese to win, and I'm going to take him to win via decision. Now, in the next fight of the night, we've got newcomer Nicolae Negumereanu versus Saparbek Safarov. Kieran, who have you got?
I'm going with Safarov for this one, man. Nico, he does look very impressive on paper when you just, before you look into it, he's got a 9-0 record. But then you look into who he's actually fought, and it's like, oh, they're all journeymen. They've got like 12 and 48 records. And it's just, it doesn't look good on the UFC's part to put him into a fight on such a big card in the UK. With the talent in his face, I thought they gave him like 1 or 2 fights, maybe on the Contender Series, to bring him in. But I think Safarov takes this. He's lost his last 2 fights in a row, but I think he's really going to show Nico up here, and this one I think will show that Nico's only fought the journeyman, and that he's not quite ready yet for the UFC.
John, who have you got?
Yeah, as Kieran mentioned, on the outside, Negumereanu looks like he's got a good record, 9-0. But just going down, he's wins here. These are his opponent's records. So his last opponent 10-13, 2-15, 7-5, 12-41, 3-2, 2-1, 0-1, 0-0, 1-3. So, there's only one guy there with a decent number of wins, 7-5, and then the other guy's got 2 or 3 wins. But his last but one fight was against a guy who was 2-15, and as we've mentioned so many times on this podcast before, you don't know what level of fighter you're going to get when you bring them in. I think he's only come into his fight on a few weeks' notice. I think it was originally meant to be Saki fighting, wasn't it? And he had to pull out through injury. So they've obviously scrambled around and got this guy in, but we have seen sometimes. We saw it a couple of weeks ago against Priscila. You get these guys come in and they're beasts, man, and they shock you. But I can't see that happening in this fight. Negumereanu looks he's most dangerous on the ground. A lot of his wins have come via submission. Safarov is a sambo guy. He comes from a sambo background. I wasn't overly impressed with him in his first 2 UFC outings against Jean Valente and Tyson Pedro. Pedro, he had a couple of moments. He did take Pedro down a couple of times, but his striking didn't look great. He just kind of swung wild single shots, didn't really set anything up, didn't really utilise a jab or anything like that. As soon as Pedro started lighting him up a bit, he was just shooting for takedowns from the outside. Like I said, he did manage to land some takedowns, and eventually that was led to his downfall with that Kimura in the end of the first round. But I think if he wasn't so close up against the fence for that Kimura, I think he would have managed to scramble out of it. but he was just in such a weird position that he couldn't really move anywhere because the octagon fence was in the way. Now, it's tough to judge. Like I say, I haven't seen really anything of Negumereanu. I've only seen limited bits of Safarov from what we've seen in the UFC, but I'm going with Safarov to win this fight. I think he will utilise that sambo, and if he can nullify the ground threats, then I think he'll be able to just have some top control, and I think he'll either get a decision win or maybe late in the fight, coming in on short notice. If Negumereanu starts to tire a bit, then maybe he'll put him away with Safarov will put him away with something late second, third round. But yeah, I'm going with Safarov to win this fight.
Yeah, first and foremost, Nicolae looks good. He looks very, very good, man. He closes. He's aggressive. He closes the distance. He'll get a hold of his opponents. He'll send them up in the air. He'll slam them down. He can strike as well, and he's striking. Even I'll move on to talk a bit about what you've just spoken about, John, in regards to his level of opposition. But even with lower level of opponents, you can sort of tell when a fighter, in my opinion, I can tell when a fighter has got good fundamentals or bad fundamentals. He's striking, he doesn't wing him sloppy or anything like that. He catches his opponents with good strikes and knocks them out. Like I've said, he's aggressive, he'll close the distance, he looks good on the mat. But how much can you trust of that when, like you've said it already, John, the level of his opposition is very, very low, and it's very hard to trust a guy in the UFC debut, short notice, coming in and actually putting it on his opponent under the biggest bright lights of the sport. Having said that, Safarov's been relatively underwhelming. The one thing you can say about him is he's extremely tough. He's extremely durable. You look back at that Jean Vellante fight and his knee was blown out like after a couple of minutes, yet he still went the rest of that first round and some of the second round as well. He's tough, he's durable, and you have to put Safarov out if you're going to have a good chance of winning this fight. The thing is with Nicolae, with Safarov's background, Sambo background, is a Russian. How much of what Nicolae has done on the regional scene is going to work against a Russian Sambo expert? I don't know. I really don't know. It's a tough fight to call because there's so many unknowns. There's so many red flags. Tyson Pedro at the time that he beat Safarov was looking good. Jean Vellante was also at a point in his career where he was still winning fights. It's really tough. It's hard to gauge exactly how good Nicolae is, and for that reason, I'm going to be picking Safarov to win the fight. I'm going to trust the UFC experience. I'm going to trust the veteran experience. I'm going to trust 9 times out of 10 I trust a Russian with Sambo. I think Nicolae is going to come out. He's going to come out aggressive. He's going to try and tie up. He may fail on a few of his takedowns that he would have got in the regionals. I think that he could potentially have an adrenaline dump as well by coming out hard, especially if he hurts Safarov early. If he hurts Safarov, we could end up seeing a scenario like we see with Patrick Cummins a lot, where you hurt the dude and you put in everything to try and finish him, and then when your cardio hits a brick wall and you haven't finished him, then you're in trouble. We could see a scenario like that in this fight. Either way, I'm going to take Safarov to win, and I'm going to take him to win via decision. So in the next fight of the night, we've got Marc Diakiese versus Joe Duffy. For those that don't know, this was initially supposed to be Diakiese versus Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray pulled out and Joe Duffy stepped in. Kieran, who have you got?
I'm going to go with Diakiese for this one, man. He's had a rough time. He's had 3 consecutive losses now. But outside of the cage, he's changed everything. He's now training at AVT just down the road from me. Under Danny Mitchell, a UFC vet, a Bellator vet, also alongside Scott Askham, Jack Grant. There's some other fantastic grapplers down there as well. So I think that's really going to help him out. He does need a win. I think if he's got any chance of staying on the UFC roster, it needs to be something special. Maybe one of those highlight reel knockouts we got used to seeing him do on Bama back in the day. But it's going to be a tough fight. I think he can do it. I think working alongside the AVT team, they're going to get him up to the standard where he should be. But Duffy on the other side of the cage, is very versatile. We know what he can do. He's one of the only few guys to hold a win over Conor McGregor. So I'm going to go with Diakiese again on this one, but it's not a confident pick. But I think in desperate times call for desperate measures. I think we'll see him get back into his best form. I think we'll possibly see him do one of his highlight reel knockouts.
John, who have you got?
Yeah, this is a real close fight and a real tough one to call. As Kieran said, the Casey really needs to win this fight because I think he's going to be out of the UFC if he doesn't. 4 losses in a row. You don't see many people hang around after that. And I mean, yeah, in his last fight against Hatparast, he looked like his confidence had gone. I mean, he was such a confident fighter, and inside and outside of the octagon, especially going into like the Drakkar Closer fight and things like that. And yeah, just that confidence from the 3 losses. Well, obviously the 2 losses prior to the Hatparast fight, it just seemed to wear on him. And as Kieran mentioned, he's changed camps now, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, staying close to home, he's training with some beasts, some real good guys, some real good grapplers as well. Danny Mitchell, we know he's a really good grappler, and that's where Diakiese has maybe struggled a bit in some of the grappling exchanges. He did seem to tire out against Hatparast as well. He couldn't seem to keep up with the pace that he put on him. Are we going to see Joe Duffy put on a similar pace? No, I don't think so. I don't think Duffy's that kind of guy. Duffy does come into his fight. I mean, he's a very good boxer. He lost his last fight to James Vick. I mean, that was all the way back in November of 2017. And if people haven't watched that fight or don't remember it, I mean, he looked really good in the first round and a half, and he lost the very last second of the second round as well, against a tough guy, James Vick. And it's going to be interesting. And for me, it all depends on kind of the range in which this fight plays out. If he plays out on the inside, I'm picking Joe Duffy because I think Joe Duffy is a sharper, crisper boxer than Diakiese. But if Joe Duffy's hanging around in Diakiese's kicking range, I think Diakiese will use that array of kicks. He's got the low kicks. He's got some vicious body kicks as well, spinning attacks. He'll utilise them all, and yeah, it'll be a long night for Joe Duffy if it stays in that range. So for me, it really all depends on the range and whether Joe Duffy does enough to get on the inside and just keep in boxing range. And I'm going to go with Joe Duffy to win this fight. I mean, when you look at his losses, he's only 2 losses in the UFC, coming against Dustin Poirier and James Vick. And like I mentioned, he's a very good boxer. So I think if it's on the inside, which I think Joe Duffy will be able to work it to the inside, I think he'll be able to utilise that crisp boxing. I wouldn't be surprised if he threw in a few takedowns, or at least takedown attempts. Obviously, we know where he's trained before at TriStar, and we know they're dangerous wrestlers, and they've got some very good wrestlers to learn from there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to take Diakiese down, especially early on to test that cardio. But yeah, I think again it'll be a very close fight, but I'm going with Joe Duffy to win this by decision.
Well, I think you two have broken this fight down really, really well, and for that reason, I'm going to end up disappointing a lot of people here. For those that don't know, I work very closely with Heavy Duty Fight Management, which is the fight management company of that Marc's under, and I know exactly what Marc's looking to do inside the cage. And for that reason, I'm not going to break this fight down. I don't think it's right of me to do so. Marc's fighting for not his career, but he's fighting for his job in the UFC, in my opinion. And this is a must-win fight for him. I'm not going to break the fight down. I am going to give a prediction. I'm going to take Marc to win. I'm going to take him to win via decision. But believe me, I know it's a cliche, but this is going to be the best Marc Diakiese we've seen in the UFC, and it's going to be a very, very competitive fight. So Marc Diakiese is the pick, and I'm taking him to win via decision. Now, in the next fight of the night, we've got Arnold Allen versus Jordan Rinaldi. Kieran, who have you got?
I'm going to go with Arnold Allen for this one. You know, he's on a 6-win streak. He's a young and exciting prospect. He's only 25. He just looks a bit older because he's got that mustache. But, you know, fantastic fighter. He's putting on some really good performances. You know, Jordan Rinaldi now is not one to sort of pass over again. You know, he's on a 1-win streak. He's trying to build some momentum. But I think for Arnold Allen in front of a hometown audience, you know, this is a chance to show that he belongs in like the top 10 of the featherweight division. You know, that he could possibly, you know, be a title contender one day, maybe in 1 or 2 years. So I'm going to back him. I think I'm going to go with a submission win for him.
John, who have you got?
Yeah, I'm going to for one of the rare occasions tonight. I'm going to disagree with Kieran, and I'm going to go with Jordan Rinaldi to win this fight. Arnold Allen, obviously, he's coming into this fight off the back of a decent win streak. 6 wins. He got his last win over Mads Burnell with that front choke, but for me, he didn't look great in that Mads Burnell fight. Burnell looked good. He's predominantly strongest in his wrestling, his grappling, but he held his own pretty much in the first round against Arnold Allen on the feet, and then he was taking Arnold Allen down pretty much at will in the second and third round, and he just got a lapse of concentration. Meant he got caught in that front choke as he went for a takedown against the cage, and I think that let Arnold Allen off the hook big time, because he was definitely on his way to a defeat in that fight, I believe. And if we look back at Jordan Rinaldi's last fight, he got the win over Jason Knight. Now Jason Knight is, again, his takedown defense isn't particularly great, but he's got one of the best guards in the featherweight division. Obviously, I know he's been released now. He had one of the best guards in the featherweight division. Very dangerous on his back, and Rinaldi was just able to nullify all that pressure, advanced position, land ground and pound. If Knight did get back to his feet, Rinaldi would shoot under and get another takedown. And if the fight plays out anything like Rinaldi's last fight and Allen's last fight, I think Rinaldi's going to be able to take Allen down. I think he's going to be able to nullify him on the ground again. Rinaldi's a bit wild with his striking when he comes in. He does mix in his kicks quite well, but maybe Allen could have some success on the feet if he does stuff the takedowns. And again, as we saw in the last fight, he's dangerous with submission attempts. So Ronaldo will have to watch out for the guillotine, that front choke, etc. But yeah, just from looking at their last few fights and their last fights in particular for both of them, I just think Ronaldo's win and style was exactly the opposite of what Allen struggled against in that fight, although he got the win. So yeah, I'm going with Jordan Ronaldo to win this fight, and I think he's going to win a decision.
Yeah, I'm going the same way as Kieran. I'm picking Arnold Allen to win the fight. Now, his last fight wasn't that impressive. You know, he was getting taken down, and he did start boxing Mads Burnell up earlier on in the fight, but Mads Burnell really got his boxing down. And I'm telling you, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but Mads Burnell is one of the worst cuts that the UFC has ever made. That dude is a legit talent. He's going to be back. 100% he's going to be back. It's shocking that they got rid of him. I actually don't hold too much against. I know Arnold Allen won the fight, but listen, he caught a choke when he was, when he was about to lose a 30-26 decision. I don't hold anything against Arnold Allen in that fight. I just think Mads Burnell is that good. His takedown entries are really good. They're on point. They're quick. He level changes really well as well, and I just don't. Jordan Rinaldi's got a similar style and he's bigger than Burnell, but I just don't think his qualities are as good as what Mads Burnell's was. I don't think his His boxing is as technical. I don't think his takedowns are as sharp. I think Masvidal's got a better submission grappling game. And Allen was defending some takedowns, especially early on, and he was standing up a lot in the fight too. So he has got a good get-up game. So I do think if Rinaldi does adopt that type of game plan where he is looking to level change and shooting with regularity, I think Allen he might get taken down a couple of times, but I think he'll keep standing back up. And I don't think Rinaldi is as relentless as what Masvidal is and what he was in that fight. So the reason I keep talking about the Masvidal fight is because I do see a lot of similarities in his style and Rinaldi's style. I think Arnold Allen's boxing is very good. It's sharp, it's accurate, his movement's good as well. He's got to not let himself get backed up to the cage in this fight, because that's where he's going to come not unstuck, but that's where the takedowns are going to start coming in. And the more he can just nullify that offensive wrestling of Rinaldi, the easier this fight will be for him. Like I say, I think Arnold Allen's got skills. I think he's got a bright future, and I do see this fight being won and lost on the feet, and for that reason I'm going to take Arnold Allen to win, and I'm going to take him to win via decision. Now, next fight of the night, and man, this is one I am stoked for. We've got the battle of the Welshmen, Jack Marshman versus John Phillips. Kieran, who have you got?
Oh, this is such a tough fight to pick, but I think I'm going to take Marshman for this one. He's not had a great run of form recently. He's had 2 losses, but they were still quite impressive performances. He showed a lot of heart. He might not be the most technical fighter, but if you get caught by one of his punches, it's going to put you out. He's also trained with the right people. He's trained at Tillery Combat with under Richard Shaw, with Jack Shaw, with Chris Edwards. Some of the guys down there, iron sharpens iron. I know it's a cliche, but it's the truth. He trains some of the best guys in Wales. Trains at the top, in my opinion, the top gym in Wales. John Phillips is still a tough guy. Very experienced guy. This will be his 30th pro fight. But I think Marshman will take it on the feet. I think it is, his boxing will be the difference in this. I think we'll see him, dig deep, use that sort of. He's an armed forces vet, so he's obviously got a lot of heart and a lot of determination and a lot of, passion. I think we're going to see that, and I think we're going to see him push through and take this one by second round KO.
John, who have you got?
Yeah, as you both mentioned, man, this is one hell of a fight, and this is just going to be action. I think it's going to be action, aggression, and I really think it's going to be a case of whoever can't withstand being punched in the face repeatedly, the soonest will lose, because I think they're just going to stand and trade. I really do. I think if Marshman was sensible in this one, I think he'd try and utilize. I know he's not particularly known for wrestling or his ground game or anything like that, but I'd try to utilize that in this fight because obviously Phillips, we saw in his UFC debut against Charles Bird, he got taken down. He didn't really have a clue of how to get back to his feet, and was quickly gave up his back and was submitted with the rear naked choke. He also lost via rear naked choke to Kevin Holland in his last fight. If Marshman can take the fight to the ground, will Phillips give something up? I don't know. I don't know whether Marshman's at the level of Holland and Bird when it comes to the ground game. But yeah, I do think it's going to play out just on the feet, both of them standing and trading, exchanging shots, and whose chin can hold out better. And for that reason, it makes it a really tough fight to pick, and a really tough one to decide who's going to win it. But I'm also going with Jack Marshman in this one. I think he's technically the slightly better fighter in his striking. He's fought some tough guys in the UFC. Got some good wins as well, especially his UFC debut. But yeah, he's come up against guys like Thiago Santos, Antonio Carlos Jr., Carl Roberson. I mean, they're tough guys, and you do learn from your losses, especially against tough competition like that. And as Kieran mentioned, he's training with a good team. And yeah, I just think these two are going to bang it out. But I think Marshman eventually is going to. He's got power. I think he's going to land on Phillips and put him away. So I'm going with Jack Marshman to win. Also in the second round via knockout or TKO.
Interesting. I think this is going to be fight of the night. I'm going to cry if any of these start shooting him for takedowns, because it's going to do it such a disservice with the fight that the UFC have made here. That I think it is going to be a stand and bang job. If either of these guys shooting on the other, I think the takedowns could be defended, and if they're not defended, I think they could stand back up. Specifically from Phillips' side, Phillips showed he didn't show a decent game against Charles Byrd, but he looked better defensively on the mat against Kevin Holland, who I think is a better grappler than Jack Marshman. But this is the first fight in the UFC, definitely, that John Phillips has been given where he can just bang. I don't think he's going to need to worry about a takedown game here. I think he can just go in there, he can just bomb on Marshman, let Marshman bomb on him, and like we've already said, they're going to bang until one drops. And I think John Phillips hits the hardest. I think he's slightly more accurate inside the pocket. Jack Marshman's more of a technical striker, so if his cardio's on point, he could potentially adopt a game plan similar to what, and not totally similar, by the way, with what I'm about to say, but similar to what Zabit did against Jeremy Stevens. So obviously Marshman's not at that level and doesn't have all the flashy stuff, but Zabit was on the back foot a lot, moving, exiting, angling. If Marshman has drilled that into his camp and he's got the cardio to do it, I think that'd be really smart of him to do, because I think he can piece John Phillips up on the back foot for maybe 10 minutes if John Phillips tires, or 15 minutes if he needs to. But I don't see. I think Jack Marshman's going to meet fire with fire here, and like I say, I think inside the pocket with that, they're both sort of technical brawlers in a way. I just think John Phillips is the better brawler. I think he hits harder. I think he's going to land the cleaner shots, and I think John Phillips is going to knock him out. So I'm taking John Phillips to win, and I'm taking to win via knockout. Now in the next fight of the night, we've got Danny Roberts versus Claudio Silva. Kieran, who have you got?
I'm going to take Claudio Silva on this one. This one's a bit more of a straightforward pick for me, I believe. Silva's a fantastic jiu-jitsu guy. He's got 7 submissions. That typical Brazilian jiu-jitsu background. He's from Brazil. They train from really early age over there in the art. And I think he's only got to catch Roberts off balance the once and get it to the floor, or have Roberts make the stupid decision or frustrate Roberts enough on the feet to get Roberts to shoot him for something, and then just catch him some sort of choke or some sort of joint submission. I think that's how the fight's going to go. I will say though, I'm surprised this one's on the main card. I know Danny Roberts is a hometown favourite. He's on a 2-win streak. He got a fight of the night last time he fought. But I personally think this should be on the prelims. I thought the Tom Breese fight should be, in place of this on the main card. But yeah, I'm going to take Claudio Silva. I'm going to go first round submission.
John, who have you got?
Yeah, I agree with Kieran on both the points you just made. Firstly, I don't think this fight should be on the main card. As always, we say this every time we make a point that some people might disagree with or think we're being offensive, but no offence intended at all to these two guys. But I just think there's better matchups down the lower down the card, and yeah, like you said, the Tom Breese Ian Heinisch fight, I think it's stylistically a better fight. I think it will be a better fight, and I think it's got bigger implications in that division than this fight has. So I was surprised when this fight was on the main card over that. But yeah, second point is I agree with you completely, Kieran, on how the fight's going to play out as well. I think it's a classic case of striker versus grappler. Claudio Silva's a very dangerous guy on the mat. I mean, we saw him his last fight against Nordin Taleb. That was his first fight, man, in 4 years nearly. And although it played out on the feet for the first few minutes, he eventually got the takedown and just worked into mounts. And Taleb gave up his back, and we saw the rear naked choke sunk in, and that's how dangerous he is on the ground. We saw his fight prior to that fight was actually against Leon Edwards in Leon Edwards' debut. He would have split decision, utilising his wrestling and grappling in that fight as well. Danny Roberts' last fight against David Zavada as well. A lot of that fight was played out on the ground or scrambles, and if he does go to the mat, or if there's any scrambles against Silva, I'm really worried for him. I think Silva will be able to latch on to something. I don't think there'll be much scrambling anyway if Silva can get Roberts down. It's just a case of whether Silva can get inside, get a trip takedown, get a single leg. I mean, he took Taleb down with that very good single leg. If he can get on the inside without Danny Roberts landing a power punch, I mean, which he does have in his locker. We saw that against Oliver Enkamp. We saw that against Bobby Nash as well. But yeah, I do think Claudio Silva will be able to get the fight to the mat. I do think he'll be able to advance position when they get down to the ground, and for that reason, I'm going to go with Claudio Silva to win this. I think it will be a second round. I think he'll get a submission. I think first round will play out mainly on the feet. Silva will just bide his time. Get Roberts timing down for when he can shoot for a takedown, and then maybe we'll see a takedown late in the first. But yeah, I think he'll be the takedown in the second, pretty early in the second. He'll advance position, and yeah, I think he'll lock on some kind of submission and get the win.
Yeah, I agree with you both. The thing is with this fight is Danny Roberts is the better striker technically, and he's got better movement, and his footwork is better. On the feet, he is a much better fighter than Claudio Silva, but the problem is keeping it on the feet against someone like Claudio Silva. You know, it's horrible for a fighter like Danny Roberts that's that good striking, because if he starts to take over this fight with strikes, it's only going to want to make Silva shoot. So it's sort of like it's a vicious circle for him, because if he doesn't strike well, he'll get beat on the feet, and if he strikes well, he'll probably get taken down. And on the mat is Claudio Silva's world. That's where he'll really roll on Danny Roberts. But the other issue that I have with Danny Roberts is, unfortunately, we're at a point now where we are sort of questioning his durability and his chin. So Silva's one of those type of grapplers that will, and we saw it in the Taleb fight, that will come forward aggressively and wing bombs. And he'll wing bombs for two reasons. One, to close the distance, to get his opponent's hands up so he can level change at the hips, easier entry. And just like we mentioned last week with Sergio Moraes, he'll wing bombs because he doesn't care if someone wants to try and take him down. He'll welcome it, especially when he's the one with the advantages on the mat, which tends to be in the majority of his fights. So I just see it stylistically not being a great fight for Danny Roberts. If he can keep it on the feet, if he can stay at range, if he can tire Claudio Silva out, because let's not forget, cardio is one of the potential deficiencies in Claudio Silva's game inside the cage. So if he can keep it on the feet long enough, or if he can stay in the fight long enough to tire Silva out, then he's got every chance of winning this fight and potentially finishing the fight as well. He's got good boxing, he's got good power. I just find it hard to see though, because the second that Silva realizes that he's losing this fight, he's going to do everything in his power to try and get this fight to the mat. I think he'll be successful in getting the fight to the mat when he wants it. And when he's on the mat, like I've already said, this is the biggest skill differential in the fight. I think he's going to submit Danny Roberts as well. So I've got Claudio Silva to win. I'm going to take him to win via submission. Now, in the next fight of the night, we've got Nathaniel Wood versus Jose Alberto Teco Quinonez. Kieran, who have you got?
Oh, I'm super pumped for this one, man. I'm taking Nathaniel Wood all day on this one. He's a fantastic fighter. He's fighting in front of his making his main card debut in front of his home crowd in London. He's training with the right people. He trains under Brad Pickett's protege. He's got guys like Ash Grimshaw in his court. Well, he's training with Ash Grimshaw. I don't know if he's in his corner. He's fighting next week on Bellator. He's got guys like Nathan Grayson down there, Dominick Wooding. He's such a versatile fighter as well. We've seen in his last fight where he'll just pick guys apart with his striking, but then he'll taking him to the mat, getting a submission. And just going through his tape, you can see him how he's evolved as a fighter. He's that classic fight he had with Josh Reed at Cage where he's 86, where it was just an all-out slugfest of a fight. And now he's evolved into a much more technical fighter where he'll pick his shots and he'll, just keep picking away at a fighter. Making sure he knows how to study the fighters as well. That's what he's really getting good at, studying his opponent before he gets in the cage with them. And it's certainly paid off his last fight. So I'm going to take him on this one to finish the fight. Quinonez is not a fighter that I know too much about. He's definitely a huge underdog coming into this. I think I checked on Sky earlier. I think Wood was a 2-5 favourite. But I think Nathaniel takes this all day. I think he'll want to put a show for his home crowd. He's definitely one to keep an eye out in the bantamweight division. Him and Peter Yan are the guys you need to be, definitely watching that division.
Awesome, John. Who have you got?
Yeah, I'm also going with Nathaniel Wood in this one. I think he's slowly but surely getting more and more well-rounded. I think we saw that in his last fight. We all know that he's dangerous on the feet, and he's got heart. We saw that in the Eduardo fight. We saw that in the Josh Reed fight back in Cage Warriors. But yeah, this guy. I mean, I interviewed Nathaniel Wood a couple of weeks ago ahead of this fight, and he was saying to me that he hasn't really studied Quinonez. He does study his opponents sometimes, but he said sometimes fighters get so caught up with one opponent if there's any changes or anything like that, or you go into it so focused on a game plan in your own head that you lose kind of concentration on your own positives and your own strengths. So yeah, he said he's kind of let his team, Brad Pickett and the guys down at Team Titan, do all the studying, tell him where the weaknesses are, and then he'll go out and just feel out his opponent. And I think that's something that we see more and more from him is those in-cage adjustments. We saw that especially in the RJ Yule fight, which he mentioned to me. That he just saw that Yule, as soon as he took him down, he saw that he had no ground game whatsoever, no way of getting back to his feet. Nathaniel Wood isn't really known for a lie on top of you and hold you down kind of guy and beat you up with ground and pound. But he said, well, UFC London's round the corner. Why would I risk taking damage on the feet or injuring, like breaking a hand or anything like that, when I could just take him down and get an easy win, and that's what he did. So I think that's one of his real benefits and strengths is utilising that fight IQ, that very intelligent in-cage game planning that he has. And yeah, he's a dangerous guy anyway. He's got submissions if he needs to. Obviously, we saw Eduardo, the Darce choke. Yuli, he worked for the rear naked choke. He's got power. We saw that against Luka Iovine in the Cage Warriors, Josh Reed, Marco Kovacevic, Vaughan Lee. He's very well rounded. He's getting more and more well rounded, and I think I think that's just what I'll be able to see him through in this fight. I think Quinonez is he's quite an aggressive guy, but we did see him against Ishihara. He got caught a few times. He got clipped. Nathaniel Wood's got power. If he clips you, he can put on a pace and basically just work till the finish comes. And I think that's how it's going to play out. I think it's going to be predominantly played out on the feet, this fight. Whether Wood goes for takedown and whether he can keep Quinonez down, he may utilise that game plan again. But I think primarily the game plan will be going there and beat him up on the feet. And I think that's what he'll do. I think he'll he manages distance quite well. I think he's going to catch Quinonez whenever he rushes in, and I think he's going to clip him. I think he's going to hurt him. I think he's going to put him away in the second round, maybe early third. So I'll go with Nathaniel Wood to win this fight via stoppage.
Yeah, first and foremost, John, I threw a lot of shade at you last week with your Ivanov pick over Dos Santos way back when, and I'll take a little bit of a hit for this because picking Andre Ewell against Nathaniel Wood wasn't one of my best moments either. So yeah, for sure got the total wrong read on that. But as far as this fight goes, yeah, I agree with both of you. I think Nathaniel Wood is gonna come out like we've never seen him, in front of that home crowd, like you said, Kieran, on the main card as well. I think he's going to be a ball of energy inside there. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to mix it up. He does mix it up well anyway. He mixes the low kicks in with combinations, whether it's starting with them, ending with them. He's aggressive. The thing is with Quinonez likes to come forward. He likes to be the dominant one in the cage. He likes to be the one being aggressive, and I think he just loves the fact that he can push his opponents back, and he sort of likes that dominance inside the cage. But Nathaniel Wood isn't going to take a backward step, man. If Quinonez tries to be aggressive, Nathaniel Wood will stand his ground in the middle of cage, and he'll bang if he needs to, and he's durable. I know we've seen Nathaniel Wood hurt on multiple occasions, but he is durable, and he's at nowhere near the stage in his career where his body's going to start breaking down on him. I think he will be able to take a beating should he need to for years to come, and then it may potentially be a problem further down the line. But yeah, Quinonez ain't going to have it his way in this fight. Like I've just said, Nathaniel Wood will meet him in the middle. He'll stand with him, and I think he'll end up starting to force Quinonez back, and that's where I think Quinonez is the most uncomfortable. We have seen him at times, especially in the Ishihara fight, there was at times where he was on the back foot, and it's funny because both times where Ishihara really piled the pressure on was at the end of a couple of the rounds, and he actually wobbled him and dropped him on 2 occasions in that fight. So I've got definite questions of Quinonez's durability, and like I said, Ishihara hurt him and dropped him right at the end of those rounds, so we didn't really see exactly how that would have progressed from there if it was in the middle of the round. It would have been very interesting to see that, and I actually think that Ishihara, at least on one of those occasions, if he'd had a couple more minutes to work, would have potentially finished Quinonez. And from a technical standpoint, I just think Nathaniel Wood is heading shoulders above Ishihara. So if Ishihara was giving Quinonez problems at some point in the fight, I think Wood will definitely give him problems, and I think he'll give him problems throughout the entire fight. I think Nathaniel Wood's going to finish him. I think he's going to finish him, like I said, on the main card in front of the home crowd. He's going to get that buzz, that feeling that just inspires him to go out there and put on an amazing performance. I'm not sure where Quinonez can win this fight. I think we may end up seeing him resort to the takedowns, even though primarily as a striker we saw him try and take Ishihara down a couple of times. That may be because he'd felt Ishihara's power, so we could see a similar thing in this fight. If Wood really starts to put it on him, we could start seeing them takedowns coming from Quinonez, but I think Wood will be able to stuff him, or at least stand up anyway. I don't think Quinonez is that solid of a wrestler. So yeah, I've got Nathaniel Wood to win this fight. I think he's going to break Quinonez down slowly over the first 2 rounds and get a late finish. So I've got Nathaniel Wood to win, and I'm going to take him to win via knockout. Now in the next fight of the night, we've got another good one. We've got Volkan Oezdemir versus Dominick Reyes. Kieran, who have you got?
This is another tough one to pick. It's set to be an exciting fight. Both these guys like to finish fights. Reyes has finished 8 of the 10 he's won. Oezdemir's got is known for being a KO artist. He's got 11 KOs with that kickboxing background. But I think I'm going to take Reyes for this one. I think he's one of the up and coming prospects in the heavyweight division. I think if Oezdemir gets taken to the ground, I think that's where we're going to see him maybe really get into deep trouble. He's on a 2-loss streak as well already, so he's not got the momentum coming in. So I'm going to take Reyes on this one. I'm going to say Reyes taking down at some point, possibly towards the end of the first round after Oezdemir's thrown some sort of kick. And I think Reyes is going to put the ground and pound on him and finish the fight.
Interesting. John, who have you got?
Yeah, big call, man. Big call. But I'm also going with Kieran again. I'm going with Dominick Reyes to win this fight. And
Have you guys just
Oezdemir
agreed to go the same way? You know.
Yeah. We've disagreed on a couple, but
Yeah, I'm only joking.
But yeah, I mean, Oezdemir, we know where he's dangerous. He's got knockout power, especially early on in fights, especially disengaging in the clinch. I mean, we saw that in the Misha Serkinov fight. We saw that in the Jimmy Manuwa fight. Now, have either of those two guys got particularly great chins? No, not really. So it's tough to judge because obviously in his other fights in the UFC, he won that split decision over Vincent Preux. Then he lost to Daniel Cormier and then lost to Anthony Smith in his last fight. So it's interesting to see because he's going up against another really dangerous guy in Dominick Reyes, who's 10-0. He's coming into this fight off the back of a win over Vincent Preux, having absolutely mauled Jared Cannonier in the fight before that. And yeah, I really like Dominick Reyes. I mean, he's got great kicks, leg kicks, and body kicks especially, but he'll mix in that head kick as well. He's got power in his hands. We saw in the Vincent Preux fight just how disciplined he was with his striking. I mean, he had Vincent Preux hurt on a number of occasions, but he knows that Vincent Preux is a dangerous guy. He knows that Vincent Preux has power. He knows that he has submissions, and he didn't rush the finish, and he went to a decision. I think he could have finished the fight. He had Vincent Preux hurt a number of times, and yeah, I think he's going to be in the top 3 in the division in the years to come, and yeah, I'm going with Reyes to win this fight. I think he'll weather the early storm with Oezdemir because he moves well. I think he won't let Oezdemir push him back against the fence and initiate the clinch where he's so dangerous. I think Reyes will be able to keep his distance well. I think he'll utilise those kicks to good effect. And then I think we'll see him start to put on a pace against Oezdemir. I know Oezdemir tired in his last fight against Anthony Smith. I know that that was a 5-round fight, but that ended in the 3rd round. But yeah, by pretty much the start of the 3rd round, they were both absolutely dead on their feet, pretty much. And if Reyes can put on a good pace, land some heavy body kicks, take a bit of the air out of Oezdemir's sails, and yeah, and as the fight goes on, I mean, after you get past a minute or two, Oezdemir does seem to lose that very dangerous one-punch knockout power. So yeah, I'll go with Dominick Reyes to win this fight, and I think he's going to put Oezdemir away as well. I think he's going to, like I say, weather the early storm, play it safe for the first 2 minutes, circle out, use those kicks to maintain distance, and then I think he's going to start landing on Oezdemir. I think he's going to push him against the fence with his striking. I think he's going to land some heavy shots. I think that's going to cause Oezdemir to tire. I think those body kicks will make him tire even more, and then as Oezdemir just keeps looking for that one-punch knockout, I think he's going to tire himself further. And then Reyes is going to start landing some strikes 2nd, 3rd round. I think 3rd round, something's going to connect that puts Oezdemir down. And then I think he's going to land the ground and pound until the ref pulls him away. So I'll go with Dominick Reyes to keep that move on to 11-0 and get the win by stoppage.
And with that said, I'm going to agree with both of you for the 3rd fight running. Man, I feel like I've broken down and analysed Volkan Oezdemir and his fights just way too many times than anybody should in life, you know. Luckily, though, I don't think he's a mystery anymore. So that was obviously the case for the first 3 or 4 fights that he had in the UFC. I genuinely feel that what we saw in the Anthony Smith fight was absolutely perfect for what we need in regards to knowledge to move forward, analysing him and breaking him down, because like we've already mentioned time and time again, the Misha Serkinov knockout was strange. It's hard. It's still to this day hard to understand how Misha Serkinov went down that hard. Jimmy Manuwa was also strange. A short elbow that put him down, and like I've said time and time again, I think the most damage in that fight was Manuwa hitting his head off the canvas, which again just isn't great for our knowledge in breaking Oezdemir down. But Anthony Smith, so Oezdemir came out, he landed a couple of hard shots, Smith withstood the damage, and the longer the fight went on, the power came out of Volkan Oezdemir. It got to a point where after 2.5-3 minutes, Anthony Smith had been hit with Volkan's hardest shots that he was going to get hit with through that entire fight. So anything that Oezdemir threw after that would have had to have been absolutely on the button to put someone like Anthony Smith away. And the longer the fight went on, the more we saw that energy exert out of Oezdemir, and that's going to be a problem for him, because we saw him gas badly against OSP, and OSP gassed badly as well, but we sort of gave Oezdemir a free card, a free pass with that, because it was such short notice and he was training for another fight, etc, etc. But in this fight with Reyes, we know Reyes has got cardio. He was looking slightly tired against OSP, but the volume that he was putting out there, and also that was the one of the longest that he'd ever gone inside a cage as well, in regards to cage time in a single fight. So with that said, I do think Reyes has got the better cardio for sure. And stylistically, this is a southpaw versus orthodox fight, with Reyes being the southpaw. Now, we saw in that OSP fight, Reyes was just absolutely hammering that body with kicks. It's the open body. It's perfect for a kicker when when the stances are opposite. And I just feel that that's going to do two things for Reyes. It's one, going to take the energy and the cardio out of Oezdemir quicker than what it would normally, and quicker than what we saw in the Smith fight. Smith wasn't really attacking to the body too much, so Oezdemir sort of gassed himself out, opposed to a mixture of gassing himself and his opponent taking that energy out of him. That kick from Reyes, if he does adopt that, which I believe he will, is going to, like I say, I think it's going to zap that energy quicker than normal. So there's that. And then the second thing that the kick will do is it works as a distance management technique. So the kick coming into the body will stop Oezdemir coming in. It'll make him think about coming in. It'll allow Reyes to stay out of danger, and he's got a good control of his distance anyway, and making sure he gets out of danger when he needs to. Like when you see the sharp straight left down the pipe and the 1-2s from Reyes, he never seems to put himself in too much danger. His head's always off the centre line. The defensive technique in his striking is really good. So I just feel that this body kick is going to work wonders for him, because it's going to allow Oezdemir to tire out before Oezdemir is overly dangerous. Now, of course, Oezdemir could read one of the kicks, step in a little earlier than one of the kicks comes, and land something on Reyes and catch him with one of the knockouts that we've seen in a couple of his previous fights. That's definitely a possibility, but I think Reyes is too defensively savvy. I think he's going to have the exact tools needed to beat someone like Oezdemir from a stylistic perspective. And if he does get too close up, we've seen Reyes have good takedowns, and he's got good grappling as well, which he could definitely use further down, the further along the fight goes. If Oezdemir tires, the takedowns will be there a little easier. I just think Reyes has got multiple avenues to victory in this fight. Ultimately, I think he's going to break Oezdemir down with the body kicks. I think he's going to start getting off on some head strikes, and I think one of those straight lefts down the pipe is going to catch Oezdemir, and it's going to put him out. So I've got Dominick Reyes to win via knockout. Now, in the co-main event of the evening, I think this is going to be one that's going to finally split our picks. We've got Leon Rocky Edwards versus Gunny Nelson. Kieran, who have you got?
This one's another one, a tough one to call. Edwards is obviously the hot prospect in the British scene right now. But at the risk of upsetting John, I'm actually going to go with Gunnar Nelson for this one. He's a submission expert. Majority of the wins have come by submission. It looks to be having fun in his build-up as well. At the time of putting this out, we've seen what he put on Instagram and on Twitter today with the Eric Prydz sort of music video-esque sort of video where I've been scarred for life by that video. So let's talk about it the better. But he seems to be having fun in the build-up, and I think that's always a good sign going into a fight. That's nothing against Leon Edwards. I don't know him personally. I know John does, but I think Nelson takes this one. I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think it's going to be a tough, grinding fight. I think Nelson might just be able to catch Leon somewhere with a submission, maybe towards the end of the fight. In the sort of last 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to go Nelson by submission in the third round.
John, shock me.
I'm going with, surprise, surprise, Leon Rocky Edwards to win this fight. For me, Leon is one of the most well-rounded guys in the UK. He's obviously, we know what Gunnar Nelson's about. We know that he's good on the feet, but we know that he's real danger. He's on the ground and in his submission and grappling skills, and obviously that is where he's going to want this fight to play out. But people, I don't think, realise how good Leon Edwards' wrestling is. He's got some of the best, for me, some of the best wrestling for UK fighters. He reminds me a bit of Michael Bisping, actually, in his wrestling sense. I mean, I think he utilises his offensive wrestling more than Michael Bisping used to, but defensively, I think they both had pretty sound takedown defence, and more often than not, that would Bisping had a good enough takedown defence. I know he lost to some wrestlers, like the real good wrestlers in the divisions, the Charles Sons, etc. But I do think Leon Edwards will be able to stuff the takedowns of Gunnar Nelson because of his of that wrestling. I mean, way back in 2015, he lost the unanimous decision to Kamaru Usman, a fight that he was dominated by Usman in the wrestling exchanges, which is obviously to be expected because the now world champion, he's a phenomenal wrestler. But Leon Edwards won around in that fight as well against Usman, and did manage to nullify some of his wrestling. And since that fight, since that loss, he's really worked really hard on his wrestling, and he's a really good wrestler now, and both offensively and defensively. And like I mentioned earlier for the Tom Breese breakdown, these guys know each other because a lot of the Team Renegade guys have been over to Mjolnir MMA over in Iceland and trained with Gunnar Nelson several times, and I think they'll know what to expect from Gunnar Nelson. And I really do think that Leon Edwards is going to be able to keep this fight standing, and if he keeps his fight standing, I think he's the better striker out of the two. I think it's going to be a pretty tentative fight because Leon is very much a counter striker, and Gunnar Nelson is a counter striker when he keeps it standing. So I think it's going to be quite a tentative, on edge fight. Not know what's going to happen next, but I do think that Leon Edwards will do enough damage on the feet, and I really do think he's going to be able to avoid Nelson's takedowns. It really wouldn't surprise me. And I know I saw an interview with Leon Edwards today as well that came out where he said he's one of the only people in the world that actually wants to test their grappling against Gunnar Nelson, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if we saw Leon Edwards take or try to take Gunnar Nelson down, because he has no fear in those situations. He doesn't fear taking guys down who have got good wrestling. He doesn't fear standing with guys who are good strikers. That's just the kind of guy he is, the kind of fighter that he is. So yeah, I wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he even attempted a takedown in the fight and tried to get Gunnar Nelson to the mat. But ultimately, I'll go with Leon Edwards to win this fight. I don't think he's going to put Gunnar Nelson away. I think he's going to go the distance. Like I said, I think he's going to be quite tentative with both fighters not really committing on the feet. But when they do commit, I think Leon Edwards gets the better of the striking exchanges. I think he avoids Gunnar Nelson's ground game for long enough to take a decision win.
Yeah, I like Gunnar Nelson in this fight. I like Leon Edwards as well as a fighter, and I do think he's well-rounded. But the problem is, Gunnar Nelson has got that unbelievable edge, in my opinion, on the mat. And if you're right in what you're saying, John, and Leon Edwards does want to test his grappling against Gunnar Nelson and tries to take him down, that really worries me from an Edwards perspective, because let's not forget that Gunnar Nelson tried to do exactly the same thing against Damian Maia, and Maia couldn't get him out of there. Maia was controlling him, but most people for starters don't try and grapple Maia, but most people, when they go down to the mat with Maia, tend to get backpacked and submitted. Gunnar Nelson didn't, and for me that speaks volumes of exactly where his grappling's at. Now, one of the things I just want to mention straight away is I really love what Gunnar Nelson's done in his camp as well. For those that don't know, he normally goes to SBG. He stayed at Molnir, which is one of the surging MMA gyms in Europe right now, where everybody's speaking so highly of that place and how good the facility is. And he stayed in Iceland for his fight against Cowboy. Now, what he's done this time around is he's still at Molnir, so he's still in Iceland, he's still at home, but he's got John Kavanagh and some of 5 or 6 of the best training partners to fly over to train with him in Iceland, and that, for me, that's revolutionary, because you're getting the best of both worlds. Conor McGregor's not fighting, so John Kavanagh's time is going to solely be on Gunnar Nelson in this fight as well. I just think everything what Gunnar's doing at the minute is just perfect. Now, from where the fight goes, I struggle to see Gunnar Nelson not getting this fight to the mat. And if you're picking Leon Edwards to win, in my opinion, you're picking him to win based on this fight staying on the feet, which I'll talk about in a minute. But out of 11 fights that Gunnar Nelson has had in the UFC, only 2 times he hasn't been able to take his opponent down. One was Ponzinibbio, which he got finished via eye pokes, and in the first round. And in the fight before that he didn't get a takedown was Brandon Thatch, and he actually knocked him down and then submitted him. So from going on a statistical record perspective, Gunnar Nelson tends to get fights to the mat. And just to speak of how good his submission grappling is, he averages roughly around 1.7 takedowns per fight. But that's not because he can't get the fight to the mat. It's because when the fight goes to the mat once or twice, that's enough for him to get his opponent out of there. Now, like I say, I just really struggle to see a scenario where Gunnar doesn't get this fight down. And another reason I say that is because he in fights where his opponent poses a real threat of finishing the fight, so i.e. Ponzinibbio, i.e. Cowboy Oliveira, has that knockout power as well. I feel that Gunnar has to rush into the fight to get the fight to the mat to stop that finish happening, and so he can win in his way. But if Leon Edwards does win this fight, I think it's going to be via decision. I agree with you, John. I don't think he's going to stop Gunnar Nelson. Now, what that allows Gunnar to do is take his time, because if Leon is just trying to outpoint him, let's just say he's trying to outpoint him, he's trying to box him up, keep it on the feet, that, like I say, he'll do that for 3 rounds, which gives Nelson 15 minutes, opposed to having to rush in against someone like Ponzinibbio that poses a massive knockout threat and trying to get him down as early as possible. Otherwise Nelson runs the risk of being finished himself and losing the fight. So I just think a lot of the stuff that I'm saying surrounding Nelson really gives him an advantage in this fight. Now, on the feet, I actually don't hate the fight on the feet either. I think the karate style from Nelson's really unorthodox, shall we say. He switches stances really well. He recognises danger, so he's constantly bouncing on his feet. He's quick on his feet. He'll glide in and out of range. Having said that, Leon Edwards' striking game is really good as well, so the fight will be very close if it takes place on the feet. But how I think the fight's going to go down, I think Nelson's obviously going to come out in this karate style. I think if he stays orthodox against the southpaw Leon Edwards, I think that favours Gunnar, because one of the tools that Leon could utilise in this fight is trying to take out that lead leg of Gunnar. But if this is orthodox versus southpaw, it's slightly harder to do. As I said last week with Tony Martin and and Sergio Moraes, with both of those being orthodox versus orthodox, I saw that low calf kick coming in from Martin quite often because the stances were right for it. So I think if Gunnar stays to the opposite stance of Leon, it'll nullify or potentially nullify that leg being taken out. And I just think that Gunnar Nelson's going to bide his time. I think he's going to gauge range, gauge distance. I think he's going to get a read on Edwards. And then once he flurries and bursts, that karate, he comes out of that karate style, he goes into a more natural style of fighting, which is, sort of like a boxing stance. He'll rush forward with bombs so he can close the distance and work his takedowns. Now, his entries and his first shot and his takedowns aren't always great, but he'll stay in there, he'll stay grindy, he'll take his time, he'll change from single leg to double leg, try a trip if he needs to. He's got various ways of getting this fight to the mat, but ultimately I think Gunnar Nelson's going to get the fight to the mat, whether that be him being the offensive wrestler, or if Leon does come out and he decides to offensively wrestle against Gunnar, I think that'll be a mistake. And I see either way Gunnar Nelson taking the back of Leon Edwards and tapping him out. So I've got Gunnar Nelson to win, and I'm going to take him to win via submission. Now, the main event of the evening, we've got Darren Till versus Jorge Masvidal. Kieran, who have you got?
I'm going to take Darren Till for this fight. It's his 20th pro fight. He's in front of the home crowd. I think this is his 4th main event in a row now. Last time out, it's fair to say his performance wasn't fantastic. The whole build-up to that fight being, can he make weight? And then he proved he could. He made it by half a pound as well. But there were some things that concerned me in that fight. The fact that he walked into Woodley's game plan. He sort of kept pushing Woodley towards the fence, and then Woodley did that thing where he double steps forward with the jab and hits with a right hook that he's done with multiple southpaws. It's always floored them, and that's what happened. And that's what ended up leading to the submission. I don't know if that was a scouting issue by the guys at Team KO on, or whether that's just because Darren got frustrated in the fight or not. But he said in a couple of interviews on this time round that he wants to get the job done quick, and that's my concern for this fight. I think you can't go into a fight with Jorge Masvidal and try and get the job done quick, because Masvidal's a patient guy. He'll wait. He'll wait and pick his chances. If you're rushing into finish a guy, you give him several chances to counter strike, and it's not just that, but Masvidal's guard as well. He does this sort of hooking guard. I can't really describe it. Dan Hardy, if you go and watch the UFC countdown or breakdown video UFC put up on YouTube earlier this week, Dan Hardy does a much better job of explaining it than I do. But that's going to enable Masvidal to get a takedown. I think if Masvidal can get on top, he'll dominate the fight. But I'm going to say Till's going to get it on the feet. I think it's probably going to come in the second or third round. I think the first round is probably going to be more of a feeling out process. Seeing where Masvidal's maybe looking to counter. But I think Till will get the job done. I think he's going to do it with a nasty elbow, with them stepping elbows, he seems to like. And I think we'll get done by a third round KO.
John, who have you got?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight. I mean, as we know, Darren Till's a beast, and Jorge Masvidal is an animal coming from those backyard brawl days with Kimbo Slice, and yeah, it's an interesting fight, because obviously we've seen Gamebred making his returns of action. We haven't seen him fight since 2011. Since 2017, November 2017 against Stephen Thompson, and he's coming into his fight off the back of a couple of losses via decision. Obviously, Thompson being the one and Damian Maia being the other. And I am also going to go with Darren Till in this fight. Whether he gets Jorge Masvidal out there, I don't think he does. I mean, we know that Till's massive for the weight class. We've Kieran mentioned the weight cutting issues previously, and he's a huge guy, got a huge frame for the division. But I don't know if he puts Masvidal away, because Masvidal he's so tough, and he's so durable, and he can weather storms and wear those shots really well. So for me, it's all about how Masvidal comes out in this fight, because if we know that Till's patient, He doesn't really push the pace too much. He likes to counter strike quite a lot, catch you on your way in. Masvidal has got great cardio. I think he can push the fight hard for 5 rounds if he needs to, and that could make it difficult for Darren Till. I mean, if the first couple of rounds are relatively even, and then Masvidal starts turning on the pace, and then we could see Till tire. We don't know what the weight cut's going to be like for him in this fight. We know that Masvidal can go hard for in fights. We know he's got cardio. So, yeah, all these factors for me make it a really intriguing matchup. But I just think Darren Till, he's going to take half of the first round maybe to get the timing down. But he has got that special kind of read in fights where he can get timing down. And I think he will hurt Masvidal when Masvidal comes in to land his own strikes. And I think that will make Masvidal tentative of attacking in those flurries and putting on the pressure and the pace that I just spoke about. And for me, that will be the key to Darren Till's win. I don't think Masvidal will be able to get Till to the mat. I think Till's got pretty sound takedown defense. Masvidal's got a decent ground game, but I don't think he's particularly known for his outstanding offensive wrestling. I don't really think he'll take the fight to the ground. Like I say, he's an animal, so he does like to stand and trade with guys as well. So all these factors, I think, will mean that the fight stays on the feet. But yeah, for me, I think Darren Till, he's going to use that counter striking and that fantastic reading of his opponents to cause damage, to hurt Masvidal when Masvidal comes in. Like I say, I don't think he'll put him away because Masvidal's durable, but I think he'll do enough with those counter shots and those heavy left hands to basically put Masvidal off his game plan of pressuring Till. And for that reason, I think Darren Till is going to land the more significant strikes throughout the 5 rounds. I wouldn't be surprised if it plays out relatively tentatively, actually, like the Stephen Thompson fight did for Darren Till. But yeah, I'm going with Darren Till to win this fight via decision.
Yeah, I'm going to complete the treble. I'm going to pick Darren Till as well. I think this is a good fight for Darren Till stylistically. I'm not writing Masvidal off or anything, but he's been out for a couple of years now, and he's not really been active, and I think he's been doing other stuff outside the cage as well. Don't quote me on that. I'm just going off what I think I can remember. But regardless, I don't see any sort of inactivity or ring rust playing too much of an issue with Masvidal. He's a veteran, and at this high level of MMA in the UFC as well, ring rust tends not to play that much of a factor. We spoke about this, didn't we, John, a few weeks ago in regards to ring rust. But for me, I think it's a good fight for Till. What is going to be interesting, though, is Till's a really, really good striker. He plods forward with that Muay Thai style. He's patient. He picks his shots. He looks for openings. He likes to get reads. Slowly builds up in the rounds as well, and as the fight goes on. But what's really interesting is he's so good at doing that and adopting that sort of game plan when he's the one pushing forward, when he's got his opponent moving backwards. And that normally tends to happen because he's an imposing figure inside that cage as a welterweight. He's absolutely huge. Whereas with Masvidal, I don't think Masvidal's going to be intimidated. In fact, I'm pretty confident he's not going to be intimidated. So for me, it's really interesting because I think Masvidal's going to have moments. I think he's definitely going to have moments coming forward with Till being on the back foot. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Till adapts that slow, patient Muay Thai style, actually moving backwards. And I think in those moments will be the moments that Masvidal is actually looking the better in the fight. It's just, for me, I feel that when Masvidal is coming forward in those moments, if Till can hit him with something hard and clean down the pipe, or really start to eat that leg up, it's gonna start slowly stopping Masvidal coming forward as aggressively. And I think at that point Till will start to take over the fight. I think we do see a fight definitely more similar to the Wonderboy Thompson fight, than for both guys, by the way, than we did with Till versus Cerrone, for example, or Masvidal versus Cerrone, again, another common opponent. So I think it's definitely going to be a more technical fight. I know they've both been talking like, yeah, we're going to meet in the middle, we're going to have it out, we're going to brawl. I don't see it playing out that way. I'd love it to, because that's a spectacle that we'd all want to enjoy and want to see. But I just feel that both fighters are going to take moments and minutes off, and I think Till's going to start eating Masvidal up a little bit as the fight progresses. I think Till's just going to land the more volume over the 5 rounds. Spoiler alert there, I think it's going to go to the distance. I think Till's going to land more volume. I think he's going to land the slightly harder shots. And do you know what? It actually wouldn't surprise me if Masvidal tried to take Till down in this fight, especially seeing what Woodley did. And if Masvidal, I believe Masvidal is smart and he has got good fight IQ. I think if he is down on rounds sort of halfway through the 3rd or going into the 4th, I think he's going to recognise that and maybe try and change it up a bit. And like I say, he's got good wrestling. He's I don't know if he still is, but he was best friends with Colby Covington, and those two stuck together like glue over at ATT. So yeah, he's definitely got good wrestling. But like we've said, like you guys have said, Till's hard to take down. We saw Woodley try and take Till down, and he did struggle. He did get stuck in that clinch position when Till was standing his ground, and Woodley ended up having to get Till down to the mat by just landing flush on his face. So yeah, I've got Darren Till to win this fight. I don't think he's going to put Masvidal out. I think Masvidal's as tough as they come, as durable as they come. Unless it's a clean shot where Masvidal doesn't have a choice and his body shuts down and he goes unconscious, I don't see it. So I've got Darren Till to win, and I'm going to take him to win via decision. And that's all she wrote for the fight breakdowns, guys. And this week, due to adding an extra member to the fight prediction panel, we will be temporarily postponing this week's Hot Topics portion, but it will be back next week. So, John, before we hit the Newsome MMA mentions, what do you need to mention, man?
Well, first and foremost, I want to apologise to everyone if you could hear me coughing, spluttering, sneezing, sniffing,
everyone
and blowing my nose throughout this.
No need to apologise.
Throughout this podcast, but yeah, we made it through. But yeah, as always, man, hit me up on Newsome MMA, Fight Post, Twitter at MMAme. Always love to talk fights, especially on fight night. I mean, I love nothing more than sitting down, watching some fights, and engaging people's reactions and debating or agreeing with people on Twitter about the fights and stuff. It makes the weekends for me. So yeah, hit me up at MMAme, and I'll always make sure I'll give you a follow back.
Awesome, Kieran, you're up. Where do people find you, man?
Yeah, just want to say thank you for having me on the show again. I've been a long time listener, so it's fantastic to get on.
Pleasure's all mine, man.
Yeah,
man.
Like again, just to echo what John says, I'm also writing for Fight Post, so check out my Fighter of the Week article that comes out every Monday. So tell me if you don't like it, if you think I'm talking out my arse, whatever. Just drop me a line on Twitter at Cobley Reporting. But yeah, just again, thank you for having me on, and we've got some exciting stuff hopefully dropping this week as well. So keep a lookout for that on Newsome MMA.
Absolutely. Now, for the Newsome MMA mentions, first of all, I'd like to mention Concussion Pro 1, who are partners here at Newsome MMA. Concussion Pro 1 are the world's first dedicated concussion supplement, providing protection, recovery and benefits to the brain and body of professional athletes. If you go to concussionpro1.com, you can use promo code NewsomeMMA15 for 15% off your order. The next mention is the long-term sponsor of Newsome MMA, CBD Life UK. CBD is an amazing product and something that I use myself. Thousands of professional athletes also use CBD too, and at CBD Life UK, they've got a wide variety of products to suit the needs of any customer. You can go to cbdlifeuk.com and use promo code NewsomeMMA to also get 15% off your order. Now, the last thing that I just want to talk about is Cage Steel, which is one of Yorkshire's biggest MMA promotions. Their card is going down on Saturday night, so unfortunately I won't be watching UFC live, with it being in London, as the cards will clash, but the bonus is I'm going to be calling the fights live on the night in the commentary booth, which I'm absolutely stoked for. It's the second time I've done it and I can't wait. So if you can't be there to watch the Cage Steel card, you can follow all their in-play and play-by-play, round-by-round updates on their social media channels, and you can also tune in to the live fights as well, which, like you said, yours truly will be calling those fights, so definitely tune into that. And that's it from us, guys. Enjoy the fights on Saturday evening, and we will see you next week.